Okay, go.
Okay, so we're going to be talking about handheld glucose meters. I'm Ron.
Jonathan, I'm Ray.
Roy. I'm Sherman. And first we're going to start you off with motivations, go to a little bit of the background, talk about what's the gold standard used, how the actual devices work, and the difference between them and advantages and disadvantages. So 25.8 million people in the United States actually have diabetes. That's 8.3% of the population. And actually 18.8 million are undiagnosed. Are diagnosed, and then 7.3 are actually undiagnosed. And also 79 million people have prediabetes, which Sherman will get to later. And also 1.9, there's actually 1.9 million new cases last year. Here's the difference between, there's a slight difference between the men and women. Actually, men have a slightly, there's actually more than women, like 11.8% of the population of men compared to the 10-20% of the population of women. And here's a graph showing the different age groups and the percentage of people that have diabetes. So as you can see, between 20 to 44, there's only about 3.7%. 13.7% for people between 45 and 67. And then the most is 26.2%, anybody over 65. Now, there's treatments. There's two types of it, pretty much. There's insulin, and then there's oral medication. This graph represents what people are taking, so what percentage of people what they're taking. So 12% take insulin only. As you can see, majority of the people take mostly oral medication, about 58%. Okay, major, as I'll talk about the major case that brings about the need for handheld sensors, glucose meters, is diabetes. It's a very prevalent disease in the United States, and it pretty much dominates the market. With about 85% of the world's market is dominated by biosensors. And the reason behind this is, of course, because diabetes is a big disease among the developed Western world, so there's a lot of money pooling into having this available because it is a necessity for people with diabetes. A little bit of background on the disease itself. It is a metabolic disorder where your pancreas is defected, where it doesn't even produce insulin, or your receptors are not picking up the insulin that your body is producing. And insulin is a hormone secreted by your pancreas that allows your cells to uptake glucose. Without it, your cells basically will starve and your body will go into coma. Here's a little bit of a flowchart diagram of what actually is going on. Basically, when you eat foods, glucose accumulates in your blood, and this your pancreas sends signals the insulin to come in and stabilize the amounts of glucose. That means if there's too much, I'll say for the cells to uptake it. If there's not enough, they'll actually release it into the bloodstream through another hormone. There are 3 types of diabetes, but before you actually become diagnosed with diabetes, there's something called prediabetes. Prediabetes is when your blood sugar is raised at a certain level that is not clinically diagnosed with diabetes. It's kind of a leeway point, because once you have full diabetes, your blood sugar has reached that critical level where you start seeing adverse side effects. Prediabetes is it's below that threshold, which allows you to have some leeway. It just means that your blood sugar is elevated above the normal level, and you could have a chance of getting it. Type 1 is where the pancreas does not produce insulin. There's a mutation that occurs in the chain, so when it's cleaved off at the 2 ends, output product is not insulin that your body can recognize. Therefore, your cells do not ever uptake the sugar, the glucose inside your body. Type 2 is where the receptors are not picking up the insulin that your body is producing, which then there's a bunch of free insulin floating around your system. Then again, your cells can't uptake the glucose, and this is a common disease that occurs from both genetic disorders, but it also has to do with environmental factors such as your health, how obese you are, and things like that. Whereas type 1 is mainly purely genetics. Then there's gestational diabetes, where it happens among pregnant women, where during their pregnancy their blood sugar will elevate, but after they give birth, it usually has no effect on the baby, and their blood sugar does return to normal. They really don't. There was not really that much scientific data that shows there's any detrimental effects. But if the blood glucose does raise that elevated level, it could have some side effects.
Okay, so for the gold standard, it's pretty much a blood test. It's actually performed by phlebotomists, and it's actually treating and tested in the laboratory. You guys all know this. And it's actually just read and analyzed by a doctor. Now, why use it? Well, it's a gold standard. It's the most accurate. It's also sterile, and you're less likely to get infected from like a needle or a contaminated needle or something like that. And actually, you can actually find out other things, like what's wrong with you. You have like a deficiency in something or anything else. And there's 3 types of blood tests. There's actually fasting blood sugar, which actually just tests for glucose levels. You have to actually fast for 8 hours and then you check it. The range for that was 70 to 99. So if you're within that range, you're okay. There's a 2-hour postprandial blood sugar, which is like having like a late breakfast or a lunch, and then they test it. The range is actually pretty large for this. That's because you just eat. And then the third is a random blood sugar. They actually measure glucose levels. Like it doesn't matter when. It's when they last ate. So the range is actually 70 to 125 milligrams per deciliter. Yeah, Ryan's going to talk about problems.
Okay, so there's pretty much 2 problems with the gold standard test. One, it's invasive. Like, you ever had a blood test before, and it kind of hurts a little bit, you get a little pinch. And then the other one, it's very time consuming, because imagine if you have diabetes, you usually have to check your blood sugar like 3 or 4 times a day. So if you had to drive down to the doctor's office every time you need a blood test, like that would take a lot of time out of your daily life. And plus, it wouldn't be as safe because it takes a little while for them to read it. So if you need insulin, like in your body now, you need to have that up-to-date results as far as the blood sugar level goes.
So we're now going to be talking about how glucose meters work. And as far as home systems go, there are 2 main methods for detecting glucose in the blood. There's physical methods, which use light, and there's chemical methods, which I'm going to talk about since it's the main method. For, so to speak, first generation glucose meter, it's referring to a meter without the use of a mediator, which Ryan will talk about later. But there's essentially 2 steps. 1, oxidizing glucose, and 2, transmitting that information to an electrode. And so as you can see here, the substrate is the glucose. And I'm going to talk about in a second, there's 3 different types of enzymes you can use to oxidize glucose. So glucose oxidase is the first one. And then you have 2 different types of glucose dehydrogenase. There's one that depends on NAD plus as a cofactor, and another one that has a special PQQ complex that uses a different cofactor. So glucose oxidase, the main equation is written on the top. So it first oxidizes glucose, and then after glucose oxidase is in its reduced form, it uses molecular oxygen and donates its electrons to it in order to go back to its oxidized form and produces hydrogen peroxide. And there's different electrodes that can measure the depletion of oxygen or the formation of hydrogen peroxide. But main methods immobilize the enzyme to the cathode, in which the change in electrons change the voltage between the anode and cathode, and the current reading tells you glucose. So for glucose dehydrogenase, in terms of the one that's dependent on NAD+, it pretty much works the same way as the other one, as glucose oxidase. It just uses NAD+ to reoxidize itself, and so it forms NADH. And gluconolactone is the oxidized form of glucose. And so the PQQ glucose dehydrogenase is a special complex that has really fast electron transfer rate, and it uses an orthoquinone cofactor that is much faster, and it's kind of contained within the complex, and it works the same way as the
Okay, so how mediators work. So essentially, you have like going from left to right. So you have your blood sample, which is like product and substrate, and pretty much it circles through an enzyme, which gets oxidized and reduced. And then from there, you have this mediator, which has like the opposite form of it. So if it's being oxidized, the mediator needs to reduce it, or if it's being reduced, it's being oxidized. And essentially, what the mediator does is it's converting those electrons into something that can be read by the electrode. So essentially, it's kind of like a bus traveling electrons to electrodes, so it's readable. And pretty much the most popular mediator right now is ferrocene and its derivatives. And that's because it's got a wide range of redox potentials independent of its pH. So it's pretty versatile. You can use any kind of range of the pH, so it can adjust any kind of enzyme. And pretty much ferrocene gets reduced to its ferrosonium ion, which is, ferrocene's not soluble at first, but when you convert it to the ferrosonium ion, it becomes soluble, which is good because you're dealing with blood, so you don't want to like have any kind of infection or any kind of like transmission of diseases. And pretty much the electron affects the current from the electrons from the ferrocene. And pretty much, as it says again, pretty much the mediator acts as a way to transfer the electrons to the electrode into something that's readable. And pretty much it's the level of glucose is directly proportional to the amount of electrons being transferred. So if you have like a lot of electrons, like a lot of this, like the glucose that gets oxidized and reduced will get transformed to the electrons that get to the electrode. That means your glucose levels are high, or vice versa. There's not that many electrons. That means the glucose level is low. And pretty much this is like the new like innovative way to like test glucose levels.
Okay, so I'm going to cover the advantages and disadvantages of what John was talking about. That was the equation. So the advantage of using glucose oxidase is that the enzymes are inexpensive, so it's cheaper for the manufacturers to use this. But disadvantage is that for this reaction, oxygen is used up, and as oxygen gets used up, the performance decreases. For glucose dehydrogenase, the advantage is that it's oxygen independent, so the oxygen won't get used up, as in the disadvantage for glucose oxidase. And because of this, it's a well-established probe for monitoring biochemical reactions. Disadvantage for glucose dehydrogenase is that the cofactors are relatively expensive and unstable. For PQQ, the advantage is that it has an efficient enzyme system with has rapid electron transfer rate. The disadvantage is quite costly, so it's not really used in the mass market. Here's a typical glucose meter that's found in today's household. This is the One Touch Ultra 2. It'll get a result in 5 seconds once the blood touches the tip of the test strip, which is the little blue strip located right above the meter. You can add meal flags, so you record it before and after your meals and flag it respectively. And that way you can see how your blood glucose level changes with your meals over time. And it stores data the last couple hundred measurements, so you can get 7, 14, 30-day averages. And it has a data port which can hook up to a computer, and running a diabetes software, you can run your data through there. It only requires 1 microliter blood sample. And to get that, you use this lancing device right here, which you can prick your finger, palm, or arm. And what you do is once you prick your finger, you'll have a blood at the tip of your finger, and then you take the test strip, and then you touch the blood to it, and the blood will run through one of the reactions listed before, and you would have your result in about 5 seconds. And then here's another one. It's called the AccuCheck Aviva. This one also requires the same 5 seconds to get the result, and it can store the last 500 values. And this one only requires 0.6 microliters of blood. The thing about this lancing device, though, is that it has different depth settings. So depending on how thick your skin is, it'll be more comfortable for you for each individual at different depth settings. So it's like more personalized. The thing about the glucose meters is that you want it to be simple, efficient, and cheap.
So there are a few ways you can measure your blood glucose level. We talked about that handheld one. There's a few other ones. One of them is like an implantable glucose monitor. As you can see, the part that's attached to the skin will have 2 probes that you put in. It's a one-time thing. Once you put it, you're good. You never take it out. These things consist of an anode and a counter electrode. And the anode is connected to immobilized glucose oxidase. That when the glucose comes in contact with that, it will react and it will form hydrogen peroxide. And it will also create a current. And the two electrodes will pick up that current, and then you can convert that into a glucose reading. Another way is the